gave my husband the manila envelope he'd been hiding from me, then watched him squirm as he was forced to confront the truth. I was 7 months pregnant, painting my baby's crib with springgrass green when I felt the sharp pain in my stomach. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor, bleeding out, begging the universe not to take her. By the time we arrived at the hospital, my belly was flat, my lower body was drenched in blood, and I was repeatedly pinching myself to wake up from this nightmare. Just 7 days later, while I was still in bed surrounded by baby clothes I couldn't bring myself to throw out, my husband slammed the door open looking happier than he should be. "I have a surprise, honey." He dragged me out of bed and carried me downstairs, and that's when I saw her, my half-sister, who I'd cut contact with 3 years ago after I caught her sleeping with my ex. At first I was too numb to even react, until my husband told me he has great news. Kathy here had agreed to carry our baby via IVF. I just stared at him as he continued. "Not only that, but the surrogate papers are already signed. We signed for you because we knew you'd want this," my husband told me. In hindsight, I know I should have fought them, but I was way too devastated, and instead chose to believe that their intentions were pure. And so, when just 2 weeks in I walked into the kitchen to see my husband rubbing her belly, I told myself he was just excited for a kid. When I saw Kathy taking my ultrasound photos out of our family album, I smiled along. I even went to all the IVF appointments with them. I watched him and Kathy sitting there, touching each other's arms and looking at each other like I wasn't even there. And I still nodded and told myself this was okay. But then they started calling the baby ours, in reference to all 3 of us. Started going through our dead daughter's clothes together. They'd hold up her tiny pink onesies against Kathy's stomach and smile. I can't wait to see our little one in this. My husband never really noticed how it affected me either. He didn't pay attention when I suddenly stopped eating with them, too busy giving her neck rubs to reduce stress, too busy taking my paycheck and spending it on organic salads for her and only her. I'd press those old ultrasound pictures against my belly and cry into them at night, and the most he'd do was hand me water and go back to sleep. The breaking point came on what should have been my due date. I desperately wanted to go back to the beach where I felt my baby's first ever kicks. I woke Mark up and begged him to take me there, just so I could remember what life was like. His face lit up. "I actually have something even better than that planned." I smiled for the first time since the miscarriage. "What is it?" I asked excitedly, playfully hitting his arm. "Me and Kathy organized a surprise baby shower. It's today." I stared at him waiting for him to say he was joking, but he never did. In fact, he actually got Kathy to come up, and together they told me they decided it would be better for me to spend the day celebrating life instead of the dead baby. I looked blankly at the both. "I'm not comfortable with that," I said. It was the first time I'd pushed back against them the entire time. My husband's face changed completely. "You're being selfish," he instantly snapped back. "Can't you just be happy for us?" Kathy squealed. My jaw dropped. "Yourself." My husband nudged her shoulder. "Happy for yourself." I didn't even say another word. Just grabbed my car keys and headed out in my pajamas. I heard them whisper arguing in the background. 4 hours later, I found myself at a cafe, getting a FaceTime from my husband. I answered, and saw that they indeed hosted the baby shower. "Just wanted to let you know we've decided to hyphenate our daughter's name to include Kathy to honor her sacrifice." Click. They hung up. Didn't even wait for my reaction. I think that was my real breaking point. I decided I was done. I waited until 2 a.m. to come home that night. I didn't even need an excuse because neither of them texted me. Once inside, I picked the lock to Mark's office. He'd always kept it locked, and because I trusted him, I never pried. Until tonight. I started digging, and that's when in one of the folders hidden behind some tax files, I found a manila envelope. I opened it expecting tax returns like all the other envelopes, but I was wrong. Instead, I found fertility clinic documents dated 2 months before my miscarriage. There was nothing inherently stated in them, but it was enough to load up his computer and start digging. And there, on his backup email, I found a thread between him and Kathy spanning for 9 months at that point. The very first thing she sent was receipts for her genetic testing. I felt sick already, but then I started reading and stumbled upon the email that made me want to vomit. My husband wrote, "If she's still pregnant by May, we'll need to consider alternative approaches." Kathy's reply, "The medication you mentioned, how long before it works?" That's when I heard the voice. "She knows," Kathy called from the doorway. I froze, my heart pounding. Mark came downstairs basically immediately, eerily calm. "You were never supposed to find out," he said without any emotion. I asked him with this broken voice, "Where did my husband go?" And he just shrugged. He told me he's sorry, but that husband died the minute he found out my genes weren't perfect like Kathy's. According to him, my grandfather on my father's side had schizophrenia, and he couldn't risk passing that on. That's when he offered me the deal.